Hi, this is Jenny Walterman. This is my presentation for Module 7, and I'm going to be talking about internal and external communication for Paola School District. So starting off, we have a communication plan, and it involves internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. So in our internal, we have the students, faculty, that's our certified staff, and then our classified staff and support staff. The Board of Education for our district, all of the administrators, and the superintendent. And then our external stakeholders are parents and guardians, PTO, club, booster, community members such as maybe HOAs and other organizations, key communicators with the city, such as our town hall representatives or the Miami County Economic Council, those types of organizations that are affected by what goes on in the school district, and then our elected government officials along with that, and then any civic and church organizations such as our Lions Club, church organizations that try to support the school but also need communication from the school. And then we have two local community colleges on either side of our town, one in Miami County, and that's Fort Scott Community College. There's a satellite campus here in Paola, and then Johnson County Community College on the other side of us, and that's a little further away, but we do have students and family members that engage and interact with that community college, so we do need to stay in contact with them and consider them when we are making scheduling plans and enrollment, and some of our students that are doing the Kansas Can um, concurrent enrollment during their junior and senior year. So this page is a lot. I recognize that. I went ahead and took all of that information and created a new puzzle piece, and this involves all of our communication methods that we use in Paola, and I'll tell you the guide down below. So the pink circles are forms of communication that could be oral. Black dot is written. Purple is digital. Green is a two-way communication that also indicates an attempt to communicate and meet the diverse needs of families, whether that be a language barrier, communication barrier due to being in a rural community. And sometimes we have some families that just don't have digital means of communicating, and so we need to do more efforts like phone calls, try to do a face-to-face or snail mail, go ahead and mail something out to them to try to communicate. And that also is categorized in our attempt to meet student needs, and advocating for the needs of students in our community is using other means of communication other than just digital all the time. And then the golden yellow dot indicates two-way required communication. So I know essentially the concept of two-way communication is things such as if I'm mailing out an IEP form and I'm using direct mail and there's a response required in order to move forward with that process. That's required as far as a legality, but I also took it to mean two-way communication required if you're in an exchange with someone. So I will just go down these different forms of communication. Internal forms of communication is going to be in our orange puzzle piece, and that involves any training or professional development, any faculty meetings, phone calls, face-to-face meetings, emails, any team briefings with the departmental heads, and presentations that may be given either by students, staff, and the like. Okay, and then in the green puzzle piece, we have external communications, which are mostly formal types of communication. We have faxes, and I didn't think I would put that down on my list, but I was talking to our travel. Well, I guess she's not our travel agent, but she's the admin secretary over at the district office, and she handles all travel arrangements and vehicle registration in reservations for all of the different activities that coaches and teachers take students on. And she said that she does actually use fax quite a bit when she's dealing with hotels and conference registrations and those sorts of things. So I was surprised, but I put it down there, and that is both a written and digital form of communication. And then another form of communication we have is email. And I think email is the only one that I've given 4 dots to. So, it's everything except for oral, right? So it's written, digital, two-way, diverse, and two-way required. Sometimes, right? So sometimes we require an email response, and sometimes you're just sending out a message and you don't necessarily need a reply. So that one depends on the situation. Other forms of formal external communication our district has is direct mailing, and that is for any kind of paperwork, any truancy notices, any kind of kindergarten roundup. If we are doing some sort of programming that is unusual for our scheduling, we will send that out in every form of communication method we have, which does include direct mail. And then videos, we don't have that many videos historically in our district, but due to COVID, a lot of our athletic games, when we did go back to having athletics in the state of Kansas, they would uh, broadcast those on YouTube through video means. And even though we're allowed to go back into the stadiums and into the gyms, we have continued to broadcast our athletic events through YouTube. And so that's been a nice way to have some people be able to have access to watching a child or a grandchild play that wouldn't normally. And we have gotten feedback from the district, from our key stakeholders, especially family members and extended family members, that maybe you have traveling parents or homebound family members, or they work, maybe a firefighter, police officer, they're on a 24-hour shift and there's no way they can get to a game. And so they've really appreciated our broadcasting the videos there. And then, of course, you have social media. We post to it often, and we have a lot of different social media accounts, for not just for our district, but then we have one for the high school, the middle school, and the elementary schools. And then some of the clubs and organizations within the schools also have their own social media accounts. So a lot of social media activity happening. And then, of course, we have our main district website, and all of the sub websites are housed underneath that umbrella. So anytime any kind of calendar update or notification streaming bar goes across the top of the website, it is applicable to all buildings. And so that's helpful, especially for things like when school's going to be out this week for Thanksgiving. And then, of course, events and newspapers. I did put some of these words in this orangish yellowish color because I wanted to indicate that those are ways in which we are trying to encourage success, the well-being of students, um, provide opportunities for diverse engagement by reaching out to family members and key stakeholders in various types of methods. And then also some of our school improvement. We use direct mail, social media, and house like town hall type meetings to try to communicate with the community about what's going on with the needs of the school in our building. Okay, so communication frequency. This chart is a lot of the same that I had earlier. So it's the same exact categories. The only difference is I have this little guide down here where I chose different colors to assign to the check marks depending on how often that type of communication occurs. So any blue check marks is for quarterly, occasional type of communication engagement. So our trainings, our PDs, obviously those don't happen super regularly. Any team briefings is usually quarterly, at the begin or end of a quarter, and any presentations. And then the black check marks are types of communication that occur daily, probably multiple times a day. So those would be phone calls, face-to-face interaction, emails, faxes, and social media. And then the red check marks are just forms of communication that occur as needed. And of course, some of these categories are doubled up. So, you have faculty meetings that are sometimes monthly. Well, they're always monthly here at the high school, and that's a pink check mark. But then also, sometimes we have events occur and we need to have an emergency faculty meeting. So those would be as needed. Phone calls also as needed, face to face interaction as needed, and monthly for those faculty meetings, emails as needed, team briefings as needed. And then the green check marks would be things that occur weekly, and I don't see any up there. And so I was trying to check in and consider all types of communication. So I did consider it, but I couldn't identify anything that was a regular weekly form of communication. And then annually would be things such as enrollment notices, kindergarten roundup, direct mailers, any events in the calendar when our calendar for the next year gets approved by the board and our teacher negotiating committee, then they will release the official calendar for the following year, and that only gets posted once a year, and then it's out there. And then newspaper notices. We do a few things like we will announce graduates in the newspaper, prom events in the newspaper. It's a local small community, so we do announce some stuff in the newspaper, but those are annual events that we just do once a year. All right, so this is an internal communication flowchart for Payola, and it is a top-down program. So we have our school board going down to our superintendent, to school administrators, and then to district, school, and staff. So it has a hierarchy there of how information is distributed throughout the district. Of course, some things are generated at the school administrator level that our principals are given autonomy to make decisions and communicate as needed from the superintendent. So we don't always start at the very top in that situation, but it's almost always, generated in a hierarchy type setting at some point in that 4-layer flowchart. All right, so our external communication starts out the same, coming from school board to superintendent, and then superintendent branches off into both our internal and external methods. So going off to the left down to school administrators, district school staff, parents, guardians, and the community, that is all internal driven communication. And also sometimes I have a blue dotted arrow going down from school administrators directly to parents, guardians, and the community. There are times where our principals need to communicate directly with key stakeholders involved in a situation, and it doesn't necessarily need to be a mass email or a mass communication to everyone in the district or even everyone in the building. That's just not always necessary. And then going down to the right, we have a district communications office, and I put that in red because through doing this whole assignment, I became very aware that our district probably needs a director of communications, but we don't currently have one. So I put it in there just to kind of show that's a weakness that I feel like we have. And so ideally, we would have that person that could help filter out some of the communications that happen and check it for ethical and legal issues. And also, if we filtered a lot of communication through our district communications office, we would remove some redundancies and inconsistencies in our communication when lots of different people are sending out variations of the same theme on an issue. And so right now, though, the blue line going down, our superintendent goes through district school staff and also goes directly through to business partners and civic organizations because we do not have a director of communications presently. And so then I have the green cross check marks because sometimes we have the superintendent that's reaching out directly to parents, guardians, and community. That's our e-newsletter. That's an email that goes out to families monthly from the superintendent. And then also sometimes our school administrators will reach out to business partners and civic organizations for various needs in the district. So I really liked this quote, and it was from, let me pull it up here. It was from the intersection of internal and external communication, and I'm not sure if I'm going to say the name right, but Mishad wrote this, and I just pulled it out because I liked it. Close collaboration between teams and functions is needed to ensure the strategic alignment and approach of internal communication and external communication, which in turn helps build employee trust and supports employee advocacy and employee as brand ambassadors. And I think that really stood out to me because I was formerly a business teacher in marketing and branding, and having a unified message is so important. And I think communication can really enhance that and help everybody to be on brand and on the same message. And I know I have run into some educators before that don't see value in that or think it's important, but it's definitely important. Just like when you're putting up the school values or school rules all over the building, you are on brand, you are communicating with your students and your staff what the expectations are so that everybody knows. But it also helps to unify, because if we're all moving towards the same goal, then we're more unified in our efforts and more willing to build each other up and advocate for each other. So then this is my correlation, relevancy, and reflection portion, and I won't read that to you, but I will leave it there for a few seconds. And thanks for watching.